I'm Catherine Hover, the purveyor of fun and founder of the Palette Community. And welcome to the Here For It Live. This show is my chance to talk one-on-one with inspiring members of the Palette community and beyond about how to show up as your authentic self in career and in life, and so much more than that. But today, my guest is the one and only Becky Daniels. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy that you are here with me right now. It's been like a wild ride. You have been a member of Palette since we opened in Saratoga, which was just so exciting to have your like support and encouragement and like just just to have you behind me. I just felt like, oh my God, it was like an endorsement.
Well, and I
um,
still feel that strongly now, even more.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you. That's good. That's good to know. It hasn't the feeling hasn't, wavered. Um, and you have certainly like used Palette to create like some really incredible partnerships and collaborations, which is like what it's all about. So, tell us a little more about like your journey here into like this whole new dating world community that you've created with Gabby Fisher.
So, yeah, and that's like the thing I always say when I joined Palette, and even now, I have a different full-time job now than when I first joined Palette, but I didn't necessarily need a space. I needed and wanted a community, and that is what you fostered. And it's been so fun. And like you said, such a ride to see how much it's grown and opening in Schenectady. And it's just been so great to be on the journey. And I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit, even though I've been mostly kind of like a 9 to 5 office type worker. But it is fun to build your own journey and to have a side hustle. And Gabby Fisher, who's another Palette member, her and I had met. We knew each other a little bit before our Palette days, but we really came together 2019. She was working on a project locally, and they had asked both of us to write some content about what it's like to be single in the capital region. It's a talent attraction campaign, so they're trying to look at bringing millennials in from other places to share why is it so much fun to be here as a young whether entrepreneur, worker. And it was funny. I always share the little tidbit. When they first approached me about it, I had just been dumped, and they were like, "You make being single look like so much fun." And I was like, "Thank you." But it was a great project, and it actually did kind of help me bounce back after that breakup. And Gabby and I were kind of working independently on some things for that project, but consulting with each other. And we had talked for years. One of the first things we bonded over when I met her was how tough it was to be single, and dating online and apps are hard. And we just started having these conversations, and the magic grew from there. Many of those conversations happened at Palette Schenectady as we brainstormed what this could look like. And now we have this amazing community that we're building of single folks dating in the capital region. We just launched a podcast to try to kind of help other people in small to medium sized micropolitan regions, which is a word that we always credit you for. That's a word I learned from you. And so, yeah, I'm doing some dating coaching. Gabby's actually working on a business plan to help people in other regions build their version of a capital heart connection. So we are just trying to spread the love for our communities, for ourselves, and to help other people find that romantic love they're looking for.
Yes, I love this. And I think it's interesting too is, you're now in a relationship, like a pretty serious one. And I remember like asking you like, well, what now if you're not single? How can you be the leader of Cap Heart Connection, And we kind of commiserated on like how amazing married couples or married people are to their single friends, like we're great wing women. And I think it's like I've never had the experience of dating, online or through apps. So it's like a world I don't know anything about, but it's so fascinating.
It
And
is.
I feel
And
like
like,
more people meet online now than ever before. So
and that's actually how I met my boyfriend. And to your point, we just moved in. We were talking about my new background. We just moved into a house together a little more than a month ago. So that is a big step. But I think the best part is that, and all relationships are work. So it's not like I'm saying like, oh, we moved in together and now like, that's it. I don't have to work on that anymore, because it's always a journey. As Catherine, you are well aware, being married, being a mom, like all of that stuff. But I think in terms of like, especially the online dating piece, I did so much work on myself. I did so much research, like experimented with so many different like means of dating online and like what my methods were that, not that I have like a set like method that works for every single person. I think that's a lot, but I learned so much in that period of time, especially when I went online that last time and eventually met my boyfriend, about how to stay sane while you're doing it and still be successful and feel like you have a full life, but also how to, my word of the year for 2020 was love. But it wasn't just romantic love. It's like if you cultivate it in all areas of your life, it's so much easier to bring that romantic piece that you're looking for. And so that's a lot of what I work with my clients is how to date online without going totally insane and how to cultivate love in every area of your life so that it flows more naturally in that romantic box.
Yeah, I think, I'm sure, I'm confident that there are people out there that are just so scared to put themselves out there. I mean, because you're probably gonna get stood up. You're probably gonna be broken up with. You may be very disappointed when you show up and they're not like seemingly who they are or whatever. So to have a community around you to support you through that, to encourage you to get out there, is just so invaluable and so exciting to have that in our region. Like I always talk about this, how like the capital region gets things like 10 years after other major cities, and it's just not right. Like we want this stuff now. We don't
I
want to
totally
wait
agree.
for it to be like tested out in other markets. We know we have like a sustainable, amazing, diverse, incredible community up here, and region. It's like, let's do all this stuff. The people are here, and if anything, they're more here now than ever before.
Ever.
Um,
Yeah. And
so
the
it's
big
there.
thing too is like people think that like dating around here and in areas that look like us, like, oh, the pool is so small. There's no one out there. I've seen them all. And I've said those exact things myself at times over the years. But not everyone is online. Not everyone is on the same online platform. Like there's just a myriad of ways to meet people, and that's part of Cap Heart Connect. And it's been challenging with the pandemic because sometimes it's ebbed and flowed over the last year that we've been able to host things in person. But ultimately we want to help people meet off of the apps, even though we do have an online community. But that's more about fostering community and kind of having that like place to vent and just chat about things.
Yeah.
And eventually, the goal is to have as much as we can offline so people can meet in real life without the pressure of like speed dating and things like that. We like it to flow very naturally. And that when we've been able to do those in-person events has been so much fun.
Yes. Yeah. So tell us. So you have the app, you have a podcast, you have these events that you're doing. Are there events coming? Valentine's Day is on Monday, so I feel
Yeah.
like there's probably like some things happening.
We're actually in Valentine's Day is the official 1 year anniversary of Gabby and I starting and launching Cap Heart Connect. So we are
Wow.
very excited. This was our favorite time of year anyway, single or not, because I'm a big fan of self-love and Valentine's Day. Like whether you've got a boo or you're single, like Valentine's Day can be great. But yes, so we have a happy hour on Thursday at River Street Market. Mondays are a tough day for people to get together. So we figured we'd have a no plus ones happy hour where everybody will come and be single. And we actually have monthly happy hours at River Street Market in Troy. It's also their trivia night. So the first Thursday of every month, we get together. They have drink specials just for us. We introduce folks, and then we stay. Most of us stay, and we'll do trivia that night. And that's a great spot to gather.
Super fun. Super fun. So this is like my other question for you was like, what's your favorite part of this? Is it like, because you also started like a matchmaking sort of like business. What do you
We're,
call it? Like a
I'm coaching, right?
consulting?
Focusing
Oh,
on
coaching.
yeah,
Okay. So like,
we
are
do.
you a dating consultant or a
Yeah,
matchmaker? And I think that did come pretty naturally, right? Where you're like
good.
just meeting people at these events, and then they're like, oh, like, hey, buddy, let me help you with just how to approach this situation. And so it's turned into its own like revenue stream.
Yes. And that part, like you said, it's come so naturally, I think, because of all the work that I did and like my enthusiasm around it. Like, even though it's funny, because I've had a few people say to me, like, you're in a relationship now, don't you never want to think about dating apps ever again? I'm like, well, I don't really want to be on them ever again. But like the process really is fascinating. And so like the coaching piece has been really fun. And my favorite part of that, I have a few clients now, and it's really watching that process and that breakthrough. Everyone comes to the table, as you know, like with something totally different, but we all have our stuff that we need to work through.
Yeah.
And just asking the questions and helping, that's, I think coaching is very like active. Like some people need therapy, and I am definitely not a therapist. Like that's breaking down some things from the past, maybe diagnoses. Like I don't do any of that. But what I do is very actively like ask the questions, set challenges for people, like weekly activities and things that they're going to do and try and experiment with, and then talk about how that either works or doesn't, or how that's, been affected. And just this week, I got, we communicate on this app called Voxer, so they can leave me voice messages. And I got a Voxer message that was like, you would be so proud of me. I can't wait to tell you what I did last night. And this is a person who 6 months ago was really very shy and like was kind of on the apps, but kind of not, and feeling very insecure about putting herself out there. And she invited someone to do something with her this weekend, and he said yes. And that is really cool. And the excitement in her voice, and whether it works out or not, just that step of doing it and finding that joy is so cool. And that has been my absolute favorite part. You mentioned matchmaking, and Gabby and I both want to get into that, but it's such a beast because we want to make sure we're doing it very safely and like vetting people if we're going to do that. Like if people are going to pay us money to help them find a very specific person, like we got to have all of our ducks in a row for that. But I will say,
Insurance for that.
yeah, like background checks and all that stuff, we want to be safe. But
Yeah.
we have at least like kind of, at your own risk, but like made suggestions and connections. And we've done that with people who we've seen pop up in our online community. So I might have a coachee that's looking for something, and I'll see someone say, well, why don't you just message this person? So not officially matchmaking. So we're dipping our toes into that. But it'll probably take a little time for us to figure out how we're going to do that on a more like to scale basis, but that is in the future for sure.
I mean, and then how do you do it all? It's like it just seems like I am so obsessive over projects. So I would be so immersed in this. Like, so tell us how you are managing all these different roles in your life and relationships and expectations and ah.
Is like that what you just that was like how I feel often. And it's funny though, I will say, and actually I have a coach myself, and I think if you're going to coach or going, I think therapists need therapists, coaches need coaches, like we all need to build those support systems in. And I actually did have a really nice, I always have a really nice conversation with my coach. I work with Carly, who I met through the Ballot Vision Board workshop from last year.
Yes. Oh my God. You're like the poster child for poster member for Palette. You've used all the resources to advance yourself. I mean, that is the purpose of the community, is to literally, oh my God, I have to share this, that one of our members just texted me and said she's doing a vow renewal at Palette.
Oh, that's so exciting.
This? I know I'm so distracted. I shouldn't even be listening looking at my phone, but I think it's so exciting. So we have Reverend Ron Hunt, and he is doing like, I think it's all weekend long.
In the email. Yeah.
Yes. So that was like, I'm sorry, it went on a tangent, but and I can't, now I'm distracted.
Well, it's all about love, Catherine. That's the main point.
It's not like it was applicable.
You were asking too, like just with managing all the roles, and the thing that I think, and you are so good about this, so I want to make sure that I am too, just like talking about how it's hard and like normalizing that when you like life is work. It's fun too, but like you have to work through these things. And the conversation I had with Carly this week was really all about how like moved into this house and we've been decorating, and now we have 2 dogs and we're managing schedules, and we both work from home, even with my full-time job. And I was finding myself, because I am obsessive and I've lived alone since college. I've been single forever. And I'd like wrap up my work day, like my 9 to 5, and you answer other emails here and there. But then I'm like, okay, I'll make dinner. And then when we should be kind of relaxing and enjoying each other's company, I bust out the other laptop and I start answering my emails for that. And I realized like I was saying, it's not just like, oh, we moved in together and like now I don't have to work on this. I was leaving no time to work on it. So it's hard. And like you talk about that like with your girls and with your husband too. Like you have to build in the time and be intentional. And that is actually what I'm working on now for this month, is like setting those boundaries a little bit better. I do still think I can do it all, but I have to be way more focused and intentional with how I do it.
Yeah, and I think the accountability is a huge piece of it. And then for me, I mean, it's very like therapeutic for me to communicate, what I'm going through on a regular basis. Like I will never sit here and say that I just love motherhood, and it's just the gift that keeps on giving. It's incredibly stressful. You're constantly like, am I totally screwing my kids up? Am I totally screwing my marriage up? Like, you're just constantly, that's in your head all the time. I think that's human. But the disconnect is that people aren't transparent about those thoughts, and so social media is just like the devil, so you just like are constantly just not even on purpose, like comparing yourself to other people. And I just think it's, if me sharing that I am not like completely fulfilled as being a mom, make somebody else feel better about what they're going through, I mean, that's good enough for me, and at the same time it's helping me kind of like communicate that, no, I don't have it all together. I you know most of the time I'm like I can, like, actually this morning I was like doing drop off is like a whole like shift basically, and we have 3 drop offs. So um and Zia like is here, so she's sleeping. So my point though is that like I got to pre-K with Ruby, and like everyone there is in pajamas, and like I missed pajama day, and Ruby like lost it. She like throws herself on the floor and she's flailing, and I'm just like, it's literally 8:30, and I don't have it in me to and I just kind of like, look, you have a dress on. Sorry, get
Yeah.
over it, and but immediately on the way out, there was a dad coming in with his daughter who had a dress on, didn't get the memo either. And I was like, look, if we're not failing at parenting, we're not doing it right. Or if we don't feel like failures, we're not doing it right. So like, have a great day. It's Friday, and at Posey School next week is Spirit Day. So it's like every day next week is going to be like something,
Oh, geez.
which I'm just can't wait for. It's just like another added thing to coordinate. It's basically, as a parent, you just coordinate everybody else's schedules. So if you're good
It's funny. I just got back from a trip. I visited my best friend from college who has a 3-year-old and a 7-month-old, and I was only there for a weekend, and they actually have a pretty good setup. Like their work schedules are a little bit opposite, so their kids go to like they have daycare, but they manage it. It's still a delicate dance, but like it just was so interesting to be there for a few days and watch them juggle it. Like, it's always funny, I think, to watch your friends make that transition into a different role. Like, oh, we used to like go drink together in college and go to frat parties, and now you have 2 children, and it's wild. But it's so it, sobering is not the right word. Like I know that I want that at some point, and it's just almost, and they do such a great job of it, and you do such a great job of it, even though you're talking about failing. Like the wrong clothing it's not failing, right? But like just being open about the challenges, it's like nice to see people talk about the challenges and to have those conversations even before I enter that phase of life. I still have a little time before that, but dating is the same thing. Like we have to normalize that it's hard. And even when you're in a new relationship, like just talking about the challenges of moving in with someone, people were texting like, oh, like how's domestic bliss? And I'm like, everything is still packed. And like, I can't sleep because I'm stressed out about all of these things that I'm doing. And he probably wants to murder me right now. Like it's great. And it's awesome to take these steps, but like not everything is bliss all the time.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I remember when Mark and I moved in together for the first time in Saratoga. Like we dated all through college, and after college, and then we had never lived together. And he had graduated shortly after we started dating. So we have like this gap. And so we did like a lot of long distance stuff. So I can talk for days about long distance relationships and how to make that work. And like the joy of that, because you do have your time away from each other. And so but then I remember we moved into this apartment in Saratoga Springs. It's like we couldn't stand each other because he is such a neat freak and I am just like not. And you don't think that's going to be the thing that like you call off the wedding, but it's like we got pretty close to it where I'm like, I can't live with this guy. He's like absolutely psychotic about like, vacuuming. I'm like, who is this? This is not the way that it's supposed to go, right? So yeah, it's definitely like, I don't know, like growing up, it wasn't recommended that we moved in together. But again, I'm from the South. That's like a totally different world. But I do, I mean, it does make sense to move in with each other, work out the kinks before it's like contractual.
That's what we figured. Well, and like he had a dog, I had a dog. There was this great like it all worked out so well. And I think that was the other piece is like you expect things to just keep going so smoothly. Like even finding the house in this market was like easier than it should have been. And yeah, but it still is hard, and that's okay. I'm the mark in this situation.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, so you're a neat freak, and he's a little more messy.
Just like, and it just is like he's probably just average, and I am insane because I've lived
the biggest like it's not even about the cleaning, it's that my cleaning is not the standard of Mark's cleaning, so it's like and still this is still like a conversation that we have on a regular basis, right? Because he'll come home and I'll be like, honey, I vacuumed, do you see, like the house is so clean and beautiful, like I put the dishes in the dishwasher, and he's like, this isn't clean, like but I'm doing the best that I can, and that's
Well, I will give total credit where it's due. When I was away for the weekend, I came home and it was Brendan's birthday the day that I got home, and both sets of our parents were coming over and the house was really clean. I was like so excited. And I was like, oh, I don't have to like really do anything other than just make sure the food gets picked up. This is so great.
Yeah. But you got to tell him, right? You got to tell him like, oh my God, this is so amazing. I felt so happy when I came home to see you. Yes. But also because the house is clean.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw something recently like, I can't think of what it was, but it was like, screw love languages. I can't remember what it was. It was like, screw love languages. I just like when someone like empties the dishwasher, which is obviously an act of service.
Totally.
But you've read that book, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I use that in coaching a lot, actually. Yeah,
the love languages, and then what about the 4 agreements?
Actually, I haven't read the 4 agreements, but the one, and this is a great segue if I can plug my book club that I'm launching, but Attached is the one that has been like kind of life-changing for me as well. That's like attachment styles. And that is really interesting because it not only talks about your own attachment style, but how you like interact and interplay with other attachment styles. And it's wild to read that and then look at your own past. And as I'm coaching, like talk to other people about how they are, that's a good one. So we're reading that. I'm doing a book club for the whole year. We had a little kickoff, but we haven't finished our first book yet. It'll be the first Tuesday of every month. You can come and go as you please. You don't have to commit to coming to all of them. But I'm a little woo-woo. So we're reading The Universe Has Your Back for this first month. And we're going to discuss that in March.
I need to give that one another try. Like, I feel like I got the gist of it, but this was like when I read that when Posey was like a newborn, and I really was like such a totally different, I did not think the universe had my back at that point in time of my life. I was like, the universe is like, against me.
Yeah.
And Gabby Bernstein is like very energy and crystals, and I was like, I can't do this. I need real, and I still do need tangible steps, accountability, like goals. I can't just like chop it up to the universe. You know what I'm saying? Like I got here I've sacrificed, I've compromised, I've hard work, yes, luck, good, right place, right time. But so I've come a long way. I need to give it another try. So maybe I'll join. Maybe I'll tap into that book club.
Yeah, you should. And it's, I mean, I call it singles, but singles, or if you're in a relationship and want to like talk through how all these concepts that we'll read, interplay with that. I think the thing about the universe has your back that I love, it's really just the mindset shift. Even if you don't do any of the journaling or like the specific meditations, just trying to get to the point where it's not like the universe is conspiring against me and I'm never going to find someone. It's like, if I just open myself up to the possibility that like I can find a person who I love and who loves me back and who I can build a life with, like that switch is so huge. That's why I wanted to start there. But I'm excited because we're going to read a ton of different ones. There's a memoir in there about a woman who was addicted to swiping. And it's like part memoir and part research into the algorithms and like how the apps kind of trap us. Attached is another big one. I love Brene Brown. We're going to read her new Atlas of the Heart book. I thought about doing love languages, but it's so short. So we'll probably end up just talking about love languages because that's one I think most people could probably read in like an afternoon.
Yeah, or do it in conjunction with the 4 agreements, which I think there's a 5th agreement now.
Yeah.
No, but do a double whammy, because
That's
I
a
feel
great
like
idea.
those 2 books really are life changing. Just the changing, like the perspective shift,
Yes.
or mindset shift, whatever you want to call it. But just to, like, I think the biggest thing for me was like what the agreements was, is I used to take everything so personally, and now it's like if someone, not just obviously not in dating, but like in business relationships, if someone, blows me off, I'm just like, oh well, that's on them.
Dating though too, I mean, to a T. Anyone who I don't like to use the word ghost if you've only spoken on an app. Like ghosting doesn't really apply unless you've had a date or two in person. But if people just stop talking to you on an app, it's because they're talking to 15 other people and they found one that they wanted to go out with, and it has nothing to do with you. You could not have done anything different. And that's, I mean, you just said it business, regular, like romantic relationships, it's all the same.
Look, I'm big on not wasting people's time. Okay. So it's like, if you don't want to meet with me, awesome. Awesome. I will meet with somebody else, because I don't want to meet with you either if you don't want to meet with me. Like I have to have this like mutual understanding of like we're after the same thing, or we are working towards the same thing. Like I'm very big on like defining the relationship very early on. I don't know how I would ever have played out or succeeded or not succeeded in the dating world, because I move fast and I want to define the relationship like I just have like I have like this sense of I don't know, I call it business acumen or instinct, where I'm just like I decide and go. And
I think you actually, like, everything you're saying embodies a lot of what I talk to my coachees about if they decide that they do want an online date, which I do say is, it's nice it's almost like a business having a website. It's kind of like you just got to have it and it's one channel, but it shouldn't be your sole focus. But I always talk about like quantity or quality over quantity, and like being real specific about what you're looking for, because then you don't have a million conversations. People self-select out whether it's your politics or if you want kids or not, like whatever those big things are, just be open about it. And then someone who doesn't want kids, who sees you do in your profile, if they're paying attention, they're not going to message you. So like let them weed themselves out. That's less work for you. And then once you do start talking, keep it to like no more than 3 or 4 conversations at a time, so you don't drive yourself nuts spending all this time on an app. Like get to the point, meet in person, or if, COVID, whatever, meet on FaceTime, but like have a face-to-face interaction before you let things get too far. Because if you're pen paling with someone for like 2 weeks, you build them up in your head as this like perfect human, and there's going to be so much chemistry and it's going to be so great. And that person, no matter how wonderful they are, will almost never live up to the story that you've like built them up in your brain. And that sucks for both of you. So like get a date on the calendar and you check it off. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Then
The other thing that I think is so intriguing about dating, and again, I like totally miss the opportunity. But like when I'm talking to somebody, they're like, "Oh, I'm not gonna go on the dating app and go on a date." I'm like, but like go to dinner and get a free dinner out of the date, right? Like again, this is my southern upbringing, but it's like if I'm going on a date with a guy, the guy's paying. You may disagree.
I
Um,
don't, I'm not, I don't necessarily disagree, but I think there are a lot of men out there that do.
the times they have changed since I was dabbling in the dating in 2004.
it's it's rough out there. It is, but it doesn't have to be horrible. And that's why, like, if you're in a space where you're like mentally feeling really exhausted by it, that is a great time to plug myself and call a coach.
Yes.
And if it's not a fit, like there's so many people out there doing great work in this area. So like, if you're interested in that and you want to chat, let me know. And if we match and like you feel good about it, that's great. But there's a lot of other coaches too that, I'm starting to build a network of other people doing similar things. And there's some great people out there that I could refer you to too.
Yeah, and then I mean, I'm assuming that you like collaborate with other members of Palette to help with um all of this stuff. It's like we have a Tenna. She actually commented.
I
She's
was
like,
gonna say, yep, and she's done our Fashion Fridays. She's helped us give some advice on what to wear on first dates and in your dating profiles. So big shout out. We want to have Atena back we've got a
yeah,
couple things in mind for you, Atena, if you're still.
yeah, awesome, awesome. Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's great. I think like obviously, I'm saying this for the second time, like you're like the poster member for Palette, just because you have literally used every resources available to you to create and collaborate with like so many of our members. And I do remember like early on, like the career shift, we had conversations about that. And I didn't know all along that you had been working with Carly and you met her through Palette, but that's like just another like little awesome nugget to pull up. It's just like you're everywhere.
She's well, and Palette, like I always say, I feel like I found my people. And plug for True Crime Club and Writers Club, like some of those creative and creepy outlets that I have in my life. Like sometimes you don't need to work all the time, and those are some great outlets. And I found my people that way too.
Yes, and it's like it really is a tried and true and loyal, consistent group that the Writers Club and the True Crime. I mean, it's funny whenever I'm talking to people about Palette, I do always use the True Crime and Writers Club, but those are not groups that I'm like really engaged in. Or actually, I mean, I think if I've ever been to a Writers Club, it's because I was just like in passing. And I always say like I'm from New Orleans. I don't need to engage in like true crime stories because I feel like grew up watching them on the news. But I just think like there is something for everyone at Palette. And if you feel like you don't like, y'all created true crime. It's not even like it didn't exist before
Yeah.
members cultivated it.
Yeah. Oh, it's been awesome. I just am so happy and grateful. And thank you for all your support too, because, we get it internally, but then opportunities like this to go live and share what we're doing in these projects, like that's what this is all about. So I just
Yes.
love it.
Yes. All right. Well, if anyone wants to get a hold of Becky Daniels, she is available everywhere, right? You're on social media, your Cap Heart Connection on social media. You also have the podcast.
Yep.
Is it on everywhere you can
It's
find
on Micropolitan Matchmakers. It's on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. And probably the easiest way to see where all my stuff is just beckydaniels.com. I've got my website there and you can see all the things and reach out to me that way too. And all the book club information is on that as well.
Awesome. And the book club is virtual in real life?
Virtual, the first Tuesday of every month at 6:00.
Awesome. All right. I love you. Thank you so much for being here for it. Thank you for always sharing like yourself and your experiences. And I get to be like, I get to have like a little window into the dating world, and it's so much fun and fascinating to me. And I love it. So thank you for doing this. I'm so happy that you and Gabby have like keep creating these new opportunities and exciting events to attend. And you're just the best. So I appreciate you spending time with us today.
The feeling is mutual. Thank you so much.
All right, everyone. We'll see you next week, next Friday at 11 a.m. The Here For It Live.